In this video, we're going to talk about the fall planting of spring bulbs. So as you start to think about planting your fall bulbs, you start to think about cleaning up your summer bulbs.
Yeah, your glads, your dahlias, all your lilies, all your spring, summer flowering bulbs, they're probably starting to die down now, so you're wondering what to do with them.
Some you would just cut back, and others you'd want to lift the bulbs because they were too tender to freeze. Yeah. So you would lift them, clean them and dry them carefully, lay them on newspaper perhaps, and dry them well.
You can hang them even from their stems. After their stems have died down, you can just hang them that way and let the energy slowly go back into the bulb. So.
And once you have that bulb dried, then you'd use a bulb dust, and that would prevent any disease from affecting them over the winter.
You could pack it in something dry, like peat moss.
Yes, peat moss or paper bags or cardboard boxes with newspaper. Now, as we move into the spring flowering bulbs, we have Jen's all set with a bulb planter in her hand.
This just makes things easier. So when you're planting your hole for your tulips or your daffodils, you just push this down on the ground, twist it, pull it out, and then you press the button and it drops the soil on the side so you can backfill your hole in. So kind of a rule of thumb, if you were planting a bulb, you would probably plant it at about twice the depth, the height of the bulb. You'd probably put it about twice as deep. That would be a good rule of thumb.
Yes, and depending on the size of the bulb, we have some minor bulbs that are very small, and they can be closer to the surface, but you need enough soil over top to protect them for winter, and a bit of mulch will keep them from freezing and thawing. So that is part of it. Now the combinations are endless. So you can have tulips that flower in early, mid-season, and late. And therefore you can have them start with an early tulip that's going to have a pink color, and you could then maybe choose a late tulip that would be a red and yellow. So in one season you could have one bed show you 3 or 4 different combinations, and you can combine hyacinth, narcissus, and tulips in the same bed to create a color that's really vibrant. The ideal place for them, Jen, would be a well-drained...
nice sunny location would be ideal. They don't tend to do so great in the shade because they need that sun to get the flower produced, so probably planting bulbs in the shade wouldn't work out very well, but well-drained. And then another thing that people always seem to have to fight with is squirrels digging up the bulbs, and one way to combat that is to lay down like a cage, like a chicken wire on top of your bulbs. You could once you get them planted, just lay a bit of chicken wire on top, and they say blood meal will help discourage the squirrels a little bit too.
Some animals. We promote bone meal as a good fertilizer for developing bulbs, and the bone meal is best not brought all the way to the surface. It's best to have it under the bulbs and covered carefully so animals aren't attracted to it.
Right, and what bone meal does, it gets your roots going so the bulbs get really nice and developed, helps them winter over and make bigger flowers in the spring.
So you choose that place with full sun, or at the very least partial shade, that's well drained, where you're not going to be shoving snow or plowing snow or shoveling.
And make sure there's not a lot of water. Like, you don't want any pockets where water can sit, because that sometimes tends to make the bulbs sort of drown. So.
In well drained soil, you can put them in and then cover them with the appropriate layer, and it will. Most packages will show you clearly how much depth you would want to use for the particular variety, and it's always good to follow that. And those planting, most cases it's better to use several bulbs in one grouping because they'll make an impression where a single row often doesn't show up as well. So
Yeah.
5, 7,
Yeah.
9 in a
Always
group.
better to do odd numbers because they tend to balance out better and give you better shape.
And you actually space them based on the size of the bulb so that they're not, spreading disease. If one bulb should happen to get damaged or die, then it won't travel to the adjoining bulbs, so they're not touching.
Yeah.
And in the
These were just kind of neat. These are, this is a mixture that's for pollinators. So this one's promoting bees and butterflies early in the season because bulbs tend to come up quite early. And these are super attractants for the bees and butterflies. And then yours
a lot of us are really contending with deer, so the deer-resistant ones are really great. Alliums and most of the Narcissus family, daffodils and Narcissus, aren't their first choice. Also hyacinths. We have a really interesting collection of deer-resistant bulbs that you can grow even in an area where there tends to be a lot of activity with deer.
Not to say they won't eat them, because if they
No,
get
that's
hungry
true.
enough,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
eat anything.
They like to
so,
pull them out
yeah,
and then decide they
that's
don't
right.
like them.
That's right. These fritillaria, these are just one of the different strange-looking bulbs, but they're these are deer resistant. But I think because they smell so bad, I don't know. Not the odor of the flower so much, but the bulb is a little bit smelly. But it does. These are beautiful and they're tall and.
Some people plant bulbs by very carefully measuring everything out, and other people will take a tiny bulb like crocus, put it in a pail, and just throw it on the ground and plant them where they land.
Yeah.
And that gives you this natural look. And a lot of the bulbs that you plant will multiply. So once you put like some of the grape hyacinth, muscary, or snowdrops in, you'll have them for years, and the crocus will last for ages.
The snowdrops they naturalize really easily.
So these bulbs you can put in an area under, where you wouldn't normally think of putting plants, and they'll do extremely well. The bulbs are tiny, and those would be bulbs that would probably be closer to the surface, but the real. They really have an attraction to gardeners compared to a tulip bulb. They're so much smaller, but the person who is an avid gardener is going to have a lot of enjoyment. I think on the other side we have this selection goes on and on. There's some combinations like the red and white for the Canada.
Yeah, they do a lot of
colors.
the colorful companions, so there'll be a blend of complementary colors. So if you want to keep it simple, you can just do a bed with just, if purple and white is your thing, you can do a bed with just that. Or there's blends of the red and white. This was really popular last year with the Canada Day celebrations.
Yes, that's right.
And then, a blend of different pinks. And then there's spring cheer. This one's your daffodils, grape hyacinths, Chinodoxa. They all bring something different to the garden, so it's really good for doing just creating something different. And then you can do all little beds if you wanted to create some variety. So.
And the beauty of these are they're going to be flowering when the snow is first going off. So they are your first bit of color. Everyone is so excited when their tulips start to show and the daffodils come up because you've been through the long winter, and that's the joy of it.
The allium are kind of neat. These allium are really, they're very showy. You even get the big, these big giant ones, the ambassador, this guy, he grows 3 to 4 feet tall, I believe.
Yes,
so,
yeah. And after the flowers fade, they have an interesting seed pod that'll stay right as late as you want to keep it in the summer. If you haven't been planting bulbs, you really should get started. And if you have been planting bulbs, let's try something different. There is so much variety. You can have so much fun with mixing your colors and heights.
Lots of different, there's daffodils, tulips, hyacinths, crocus. There's so many different ones, and then you have all the minor different bulbs. So there's lots of ways to get lots of variety in your yard.
And Jenny, don't forget,
If you want to learn more, go to scottsnursery.tv.